Growing up, I always had this fantasy, if you want to call it that, that a zombie apocalypse would happen. It was something that I hoped for and thought about quite a lot. For example, just imagine me sitting in class, probably doing some work that I didn't want to do. I hated being at school. I never liked school. And I would literally sit there, probably like doodling in my notebook. And it was this idea that I'm sitting there and all of a sudden, like a zombie would bust in through the window, like eat my teacher, and right then and there immediately, like me and my friends, we would like kill the zombies and try to survive. Honestly, in my child mind, really the conclusion was that it sounded fun because it's like an adventure and I wouldn't have to be at school. So that was what was so appealing to me as a kid with the idea of a zombie apocalypse. And of course, if you were to just say that you want a zombie apocalypse, I mean, that's totally unrealistic. I mean, that's horrible. People would die. The likelihood that you would survive is basically zero unless you have extensive knowledge with that, which I think most people do not have. And so that would definitely, it just sounds ridiculous, right? But to me as a kid, I loved that idea. And of course, I grew up experiencing zombies in all different forms of media. I played zombie video games, the Telltale Walking Dead video games. I mean, that shit, I love that shit. Zombies are pretty heavily portrayed in media. And I think even in the way that it's depicted in like shows like The Walking Dead, which is like, I think The Walking Dead is probably the most popular depiction of zombies. It's like, that might not even be what it would really be like. It might be infinitely worse. I mean, just in that show, the zombies can only walk. In reality, they might run. They might, be way more vicious. I mean, it's just so beyond, like, it could be infinitely worse. And the likelihood of most people surviving is slim to none.
Christ.
But I've been thinking about this more recently and how I really wanted that as a kid. And when I was a kid, it was just such a simple, naive sort of fantasy, just having an adventure and being with my friends. But as I get older and I experience the world that we're all experiencing, I don't know if it's me, I don't know if it's people my age or if it's people in America or all over the world. I mean, we all have different experiences, but I feel like, I don't know, maybe as a whole, maybe it's in first world countries, like, I don't know, shit just doesn't feel right. Maybe that's just me, I don't, and maybe it's like the human nature that like you're never satisfied with the way things are, but it's just like in my mind, the way of life that we're living just doesn't feel right. And when I think about this idea of a zombie apocalypse, I think in it more so as like more of a metaphorical way of returning to a primitive way of life. I think what it really is, and even when I was a kid, without even knowing it, I think it was that I wanted to escape the confines of the modern world if you live. I mean, there's so many things that we're so used to that in a zombie apocalypse would vanish just like that. There's no more corporate entities, there's no job titles. One universal goal. There's no like, I think like in the modern world, there's so many, when you really sit there and think about it, like ultimately the goal is to live, right, and survive as human beings. But there's so many like, there's just so much shit in the world, man. There's just so many concepts, so many fucking like corporations and people and symbols and things that we attribute meaning to, and like laws and like all this shit that doesn't really exist, but we attribute it meaning. And I'm not saying that that's an inherently bad thing. I'm just saying there's so much of that. And in a zombie apocalypse, all of that is gone. There's no wealth, there's no political identities, there's no professional identities, like I said, job titles and stuff like that. Of course, there's no 9-to-5s, no social expectations necessarily, at least the ones that we've created in the modern world. And in my mind, that sounds pretty fucking appealing. Whether or not you view it as a good or bad thing, a zombie apocalypse reduces life to surviving, protecting the people you love, that you care about, your ability to gather people around you, and just your skills, just literally what you can physically and like emotionally do right then and there, like right then and there. There's no like in between type of shit. It's like, can you take care of people? Can you survive? Can you bring people together? That is what you are. Like, that is who you are defined as, simply as those things. And it's bizarre, but it's like, I think we've been conditioned, and I'm not saying that I'm any different or that people are different, but it's like, I think we've been conditioned to expect that we need like more than that. You need to have a status, you need to have a title, you need to have all these different things. And it's like, in a zombie apocalypse, it's like, it's none of that, man. It's just, it's stripped down to bare bones, like what you are as a human being and what do you bring. And even the concept of working, I mean, that is basically how we live our lives as human beings in the modern world. We are like, whether or not, like, you can choose to sort of define yourself, but like, it's work. It's like what you do. Who do you work for? What do you do? And what's your title, right? I think one of the things that I really dislike, and a lot of other people dislike about modern work, I guess, is that it's, whether or not it is actually meaningful or not, it lacks any sort of like immediate meaningfulness to you. I don't know if that makes sense. Whereas in a zombie apocalypse, it's like, okay, you need food, go get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need to grow crops or some shit. It's like, okay, go do it. Like, that's your food immediately there. It's like, there's no like in between, like, transactional thing where it's like you work for a company and then they give you this so that you can go buy this. It's like, it's just this immediate thing. For example, I brought up The Walking Dead, and of course this is a fictional show, this isn't a real thing, but you can kind of see what I'm talking about. As we know, of course, main character Rick Grimes was a sheriff, Carol was a stay-at-home mom, Glenn was a pizza delivery boy, Eugene was a high school science teacher, Herschel was a veterinarian, Michonne was a lawyer, Ezekiel was a zookeeper, and Negan was a high school gym teacher. Now, like, that doesn't really tell you anything, but the point that I'm trying to make is, at least in the show like The Walking Dead, we can see all these people's occupations, right? In the zombie apocalypse, none of this shit matters. I think Rick, you know, the main character, I think he, at least in the beginning, he tries to uphold some of those values that he has as a sheriff, and quickly realizes that it's just not how it is anymore. And I'm not saying that these people, whether you want to think about what it would be like in reality, that someone's job is just completely and utterly meaningless. But in a situation like this, at the root of its core, what matters the most is your ability to interact and be with other people. For example, Negan, it says he was a high school gym teacher. Like, you would not, I mean, dude's a fucking villain in this shit. It's like, now I have a couple of writers or philosophers, both, whatever you want to call them, that kind of have ideas that are similar or relate to what I'm talking about. For example, Erich Fromm, this guy was a German-American psychologist, writer, philosopher, you know, the whole shebang. And here's a little excerpt, summary, whatever you want to call it, that is what his book is about. Basically, what does it talk about? In every mode of life, people should ponder more on the being nature and not towards the having nature. This is the truth which people deny, and thus people of the modern world have completely lost in their inner selves. Fascinating. I've not read that book, but it seems like a good read, and that kind of relates to what we're talking about. It's this idea of like, we've shifted towards, or maybe we haven't really shifted towards it. Maybe it's been like this way for a really long time. Maybe we've just been on the wrong path for hundreds and thousands of years, but this idea of having shit, I don't want to say it's like maybe it's, you know, materialism or whatever you want to call it, but the idea of having more than just being. And I think in a zombie apocalypse, it is more about your being. It's not about what you own anymore. It's not about your status, your title, or anything like that. No, your wealth, like how many fucking cars do you own? Like, do you, or even like, do you own a bunch of land or like, you know, shit like that. It's being, and it's, you know, you're on this fucking planet. If you want to relate it to the zombie apocalypse. Another pretty interesting one is from our boy Karl Marx. Not trying to make this, you know, a political discussion. That's kind of actually antithetical to what I'm talking about. I think this is way more broader than that, but I just thought that this was interesting. This is his theory of alienation. And what this is basically talking about is the idea of like modern labor, presumably from like the Industrial Revolution and onwards, but that like how separated we are from the labor that we do. Here's just some bullet points from this that he talks about. Work is reduced to a mere means to physical survival, loss of self, mind, and body, alienation from the human species, loss of free conscious activity, dehumanized to an animal level, creative potential is thwarted, and alienation from other people, fosters competition and isolation. Of course, with him being Karl Marx, he's referring to the idea of capitalist work, and I think I'd probably agree with that. You know, maybe, I don't know, modern work as a whole, but I thought that was pretty interesting. Like I said previously, with the concept of a zombie apocalypse, none of this would really be a problem anymore, in terms of, you know, of course it'd be infinitely more challenging probably, but it's just like, you want food, you gotta go out there and scavenge. You want to grow shit, it's going to be hard. And if you go far enough back, and you can probably go even further if you wanted to, but Aristotle and his idea of eudaimonia, I think I'm pronouncing that right. And basically what this means is kind of like the idea of human flourishing, like living well, and like having a life that is well lived. And that's kind of, I don't know, like the ultimate question, right? Like, what does that mean? And at least in the way that we're talking about it, this kind of means like growing into your best self. Like, what are your natural intrinsic skills as just a human being? And I feel like we kind of don't really live our lives like that as modern human beings. I almost view this as like an intrinsic thing, like within human nature. Like, I think that's kind of at our core what is in us, you know? So that's kind of what this all kind of compiles to. And I know this isn't the most cohesive or well-structured video, but I just really wanted to talk about this because, you know, I don't know, I think about it. And the further and further you go, it just gets crazy, because it's like, you know, I know that I'm not saying anything revolutionary, you know. Of course, there's philosophers that have kind of discuss the main core of what I'm talking about, which the reality is this has nothing to do with the zombie apocalypse. That's kind of more so a metaphor, I think. And it's like, I think some people would, you know, maybe relate it to like, oh, like you're talking about like a primitive way of living back as like cavemen or some shit. And the more I think about it, it's like, maybe it's not even that. Like, I don't know. No, nobody fucking knows, right? Maybe this ideal world that could exist, or maybe it's not even a thing that we can look to our past as a civilization and a species as a whole. Maybe we've never been at that point. Maybe we've been on the wrong path, or not the wrong path, but maybe we've been trying to achieve this the whole time, and maybe where we're at right now, maybe this is just a particularly bad spot. But of course, like I said, that's kind of human nature, right? Like, a person in, you know, the fucking medieval times would probably maybe see our modern life and say, hey, this shit is great. And it's like, here I am talking about going back and wanting to be in potentially in way more dangerous situations. But it's like, you know, I don't know. So maybe we're all just collectively trying to get to that point. But I don't know. That's why I just think things feel weird now. And I guess The unfortunate part is maybe at least in my lifetime, or when do we get that point? Or maybe that is, there's the idea that it's about the journey, not the destination, right? Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's the journey of trying to achieve a better way of living. But yeah, I don't know. In between me thinking about the idea of this video and actually making it, it was kind of random, and this is gonna sound really fucking random. Theo did a podcast with Professor Zhang. He's like a high school teacher actually in China. He's not actually a professor. People say he's not legit. I don't know, whatever. I thought this was a compelling conversation. It was interesting, but I'll show the clip here.
What would you do with money or assets right now? Like, what do you feel like the future of that could look like? Have you thought about that much?
The world is heading towards financial collapse, and it really seems the air bubble is gonna burst. Where to put your money? It's a dead end. So that I'm ready to help myself as well as others in a time of crisis.
Ah, okay. Right, so what could I create right now? What could I start to have around me? Or what knowledge could I start to have?
Yes.
Because if the grid goes down, suddenly you're just back to your own knowledge.
That's right.
And dude, a lot of us, if we had to go back to our own knowledge, bro,
yeah,
shit would be bunk. But it will be exciting.
Yeah.
But I do think you're right. It's like, what skills would you have? What can you apply? How could you help someone? What could you offer?
Yeah.
And in a weird way, man, I feel like it's almost what we could use the most. Is that scary to say that?
Yeah, I mean, not the craziest thing ever, but I don't know. It was just interesting that, like, I feel like there's other people that, like, I don't know. I think people are feeling this way. Like, there's something that we need. So I don't know. Are we headed towards something? Is it something that we need? But I do think there's positive things to take away from all this, and that is live life the best that you can while you're here, and just like be a human being. I guess you can try to ignore or go against the confines of whatever that the world puts on us, but at the end of the day, you're a human being on planet Earth. Yeah, do whatever the fuck you want, I guess. But in the meantime, I'll be praying for a zombie apocalypse. Anyways, peace out, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you stayed all the way to the end, hopefully this doesn't come off like some schizo ranting. I don't know. I tried to make it cohesive. I hope maybe people understand what I'm trying to say. It's sometimes really hard to conceptualize or speak what you're trying to think. But yeah. I don't know. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.